They said Weatherfield kept its memories the way a dog kept bones, buried in gutters, sniffed up by gossip, dug up again by whoever needed a story. Houses collected the sound of ordinary lives and folded them into a single long hum that passed from one generation to the next. When something sharp cut that hum, a betrayal, an accident, a secret, the whole street felt it like a tremor. Becky Swain had been many things in the time since she'd survived what the papers called a suspicious disappearance. People gave her labels like bandages, prodigal, survivor, trouble. For a while she wrapped herself in any name that let her wake up without feeling hunted by the past. She wanted, more than anything, to be small and safe in the plain ritual of morning tea and work down at the Rovers. But the world does not always let you be small. Old debts, old promises, old men in neat uniforms who had once pulled strings in the dark kept tugging at the corners of her life until they looked like threats. It began, as so many catastrophes did in Weatherfield, with a note. A wreath had been propped against number 6's door in the pale dawn, its ribbon printed with a message the sender had thought clever and the receiver found monstrous. Rest in peace, again. The florist had scribbled the card in a hand that might have been a joke if the joke were not so cruel. Becky found it and thought first of the practical. Who had the audacity to leave something so public? Who wanted to terrorize a woman who'd already been declared dead? Then the old, hot feeling rose under her ribs. Anger, old-fashioned and petulant. The kind that made you imagine yourself the hero of your own revenge story. Castello was a man who had learned how to make threats look like official business. Becky thought he had motive, and that thought set a gear in motion she could not easily reverse. She took the wreath to work like a thing you carry to a funeral you don't want to attend. Lisa saw the ribbon and went pale. Little Betsy, hunched over crayons on the kitchen table, looked up with eyes already older than they should have been. Carla's jaw tightened when she saw it. Not because she liked drama, but because she understood the arithmetic of how threats multiplied. "You call the police?" Lisa asked, hands shaking around the kettle. Becky's first impulse was to say yes and mean it, to hand the wreath over and let authority do what it does. But the precinct where Castello sat as DI was also the precinct that had helped stage her old disappearance. That history had left a residue of mistrust so thick Becky could not see across it without her vision blurring. She remembered the men who had handled her case with dry files and cold humor, the paper trails that had been edited rather than explained. She remembered Castello's smile when he told her the past was necessary. So she went instead to him. That was a decision made in the energy of someone who believed she could beat suspicion with audacity. Becky walked into his office with the wreath's ribbon still sticking out of her bag and placed it on his desk like a claim. "You didn't send this," she said. He did not look surprised. Men like Castello rarely wore surprise. He wore composure like a neat jacket. "No," he said. "I didn't send a wreath." Becky watched the movement in his face. A muscle that twitched, a jaw that worked. And when she left the station, she left with a plan instead of answers. The plan wasn't born of cruelty at first. It was born of desperation. She wanted to scare him so he would stop whatever he was doing to her family. She wanted to make him understand, viscerally, that she would not let his past actions push her family back into harm. She thought she could control the edges of what she unleashed. She thought wrong. She started small. She photographed a child near the precinct one evening, a passing child whose backpack flashed in a sunbeam, a child whose hair caught the light and seemed suddenly to belong in the kind of image that could be used as leverage. Becky sent the picture to Castello with a message that cut like a soft blade. Would be a shame if anything happened. She meant menace. She meant a call that would send his hands shaking, the sort of fear that lives in the chest and makes a man double his locks. She did not intend catastrophe. When the call came from Castello, it was cold and measured. "You're playing a dangerous game," he said, and Becky hung up like someone who had been slapped with a fact. He was a man used to making threats into policies. He moved with the calculus of authority. He could spin misfortune into paperwork and paperwork into alibis. The problem with such men, Becky thought, is that they underestimate the animal unpredictability of life. They forget that other people act and react outside the neat parameters of pretense. Castello panicked. She'd made sure of that the night she took the photograph. He made a plan of his own, the kind